Hello, ActiveSage here on the Sage channel, and today I'm just going to go ahead and do a quick tour of our Joint Survival Season 3 base with DirectX11 turned on. So you can see what the base would have looked like if we had been using DirectX11 for the whole time we were recording. As I fly in here, you can see the eyes sort of adjust, and I mean, it looks amazing. It looked amazing before, but in DirectX 11 it looks even more amazing, frankly, with the bright light slowly making its way into the cave, and the whole base up there, the Berlin Wall with its hangars all, well, a bit of a mess at this moment, and of course the actual living area, well, I say living area, control room up there. Let's actually go ahead and just let the sun make its way in there. I think actually the sun's probably not going to make it too much farther in. Oh, actually no, it's coming down a little bit, isn't it? Let's see, where's the sun at? There it is, just peeking around the asteroid. So let's see, how far up can the sun... Oh, yes, the sun is actually, I think, starting to hit the far back wall. Some little glitches there, but it's pretty cool to see the sun reaching and then actually touching the base. Now, unfortunately, DirectX 11 seems to be very finicky about lights and darks, and as you can see, it's now shifted because my character is in a dark area. The game tries to mimic, I believe, what would be like if you were in a completely dark area. It doesn't actually take into account what you're looking at, and the fact that there is light reaching into the room, even though you might be looking into the dark or into light. It seems like it's very confusing. Oh god, I love the way this looks though in DirectX 11. That's why I'm just sort of sitting here and letting the light pass over it. It looks more amazing than it has ever looked before, I think. There's some weird texture stuff at the top left there. Anyway, let's go ahead and just fly around the place and look at it. We'll start our tour, I guess, not at the Berlin Wall, but up here at this landing area that Scott and I set up. Dr. Steez, I believe it was? No, UncleSte's. The slanted block here mod still hasn't been updated. I don't know if he's still in the hospital or whatnot, but that still hasn't. So we're going to have a few of these all over the place. But you can see we have our miner ship up here where somebody was apparently mining when I made this save. Our docking lights that, as I said, Scott had set up to blink. A few bits of stone actually floating about. This whole thing is pretty impressively piped up. If I was going to spectator, we'll fly out. That way the lights will hopefully adjust a little bit. That way we can actually see when we fly back in there. Come on. Lighting, adjust. It's not. Oh, there we go. It's adjusted. So we can fly in there real quick. And you can see the interior of the base. And if we were to fly behind this, you can see the piping was all set up in there, and of course it did fade back to dark. I wish there was a mode in Creative where you could sort of enable night vision. I know they added that one graphics option, but that didn't quite work. Anyway, let's head down from here. I don't think we've ever done much of a proper base tour. Following the pipes that me and Scott had put in through the overlook area, whatever you want to call it, where you can look down and actually see the top of the base. Can't see too much from up here, unfortunately, but I thought it was a pretty cool idea of this little tiny hallway. Our main hall that we were originally going to have a bunch of rooms and other stuff off the side of, but we never got around to. The tunnel that Scott dug at a diagonal or whatever reason to get into the stairwell, which leads over here. And then, of course, from the stairwell you can look in, so we have this path here that leads us all the way back to where we just were. And we actually have a cargo crate here that we had so we could easily access stuff so we could build up here. Pretty cool stuff. It's kind of scary if I turn off the lights. It's pitch black. We never got around to putting any lighting it up here. It's rather unfortunate. I would have loved to have kept working on this base, but, well, the map got unstable, or at least I got those slowdown issues, and we sort of ended up reaching a point where we felt we should move on, especially with planets apparently somewhere in the near future. Anyway, this is our large stairwell that we can go ahead and run down. We have our, well, what used to be a ladder in the old days, but is actually a passageway now, going up and down, so you can jetpack up and down the whole thing. But of course, if you want, you can go ahead and get the leg exercise and take 300 years to get down this whole thing. In fact, if once again I was to jump into spectator and fly us outside, and hopefully our camera will once again adjust to allow us to actually see in darker shadows, which you would expect me staring at a very bright spot in the middle of the screen, the dark shadows would stay very dark, whereas when I go into the dark shadows, you would expect them to then go dark, because I'd be looking at, or then you would expect them to lighten up because I'd be in the dark. But you can see this is our stairwell here. It's actually remained fairly visible. I'm actually upside down too right now. There we go. And you see, yeah, it's actually a pretty hefty stairwell that we have set up inside this mountain here. I say mountain, it's so easy. Inside this asteroid here. It's a pretty nice setup. I really love it. Let's see if we can actually run down here while in spectator, can we? Yeah, that looks pretty cool. Especially with the headlights on. Headlights, the helmet lights on your flashlights. Okay, well, let's go ahead and switch back to the actual character now because we've reached a doorway here that just arcs off the side. I spent quite some time actually mining this out and then connecting this all up, and it's all sealed, so theoretically it could have been oxygenated, but unfortunately, and I've just vented a room, unfortunately, asteroids don't really hold the air in right now, so never really would have worked. But you can see right now we have an airlock in here, missing a second door, mind you, but an airlock nonetheless. That leads us up into our control room. And of course, this is the control room that Aaron set up, and you can see with DirectX 11, you can see both ways through these glass panels. They still have one side that's darker than the other, but in here now we can actually see out of all the different directions, and it's a pretty nice view actually from even just this level. It actually gives you a nice view that way particularly, and just makes the room feel very, very open. And of course, here's our little dinky airlock that, now that we can actually see all the ways through, it actually looks more like some sort of weird greenhouse thing. Anyway, let's go ahead and look up to the top floor, shall we? And see what the main floor looked like. Oh, unfortunately, I think Tazu might have left some of these... Oh dear, I'm lagged out. There we go. It's responding again. Some of these lights off. Let's go see. Bob's. Well, there should all be on. Let's see. Lights? Yes. Let's go ahead and search light and see if we can find bridge lights. Or we can just do a Control A, turn them all off and all back on. There we go. So now we have our proper bridge lights. And one of these is for some reason orange. Very odd. Again, little lag out there. Waiting for it to respond. Still waiting. Oh, there we go. Starting to respond. What is going on? I've had these lights on before. Oh. You know what I've gone ahead and done? Actually, I have no idea what I've gone ahead and done. I thought maybe there was a welder somewhere because I turned on everything in the whole bloody base, but apparently not. Anyway, let's go ahead and also flip these screens down. Let's see. Was this before naming? If it was before naming, it probably was. Even if it was after naming, I doubt anybody would have taken the time to name those. Here's those screens that we had to show our battery statuses and all that. Very cool stuff. Very cool. We never really spent much time in this control room, but you could imagine if we kept on building these screens, well, we would have had them all over the walls here. Get everything set up. The code that Aaron found to use those screens, by the way, is, I believe, in here. Yeah, you can see it's a big, confusing mess that I know nothing about, really. And then, of course, you need a timer, I guess, to set that code off every now and again. I believe that's why Aaron had the timer set up there. It's pretty cool stuff. Let's head out of the bridge now and go back out of here. I keep calling it a bridge. It's more of like a control room, considering this isn't actually a ship. Unnamed button that's lit up. What do you do? Okay, I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't just press buttons. Let's go ahead now. Here, you see Scott's name over there. That's just because he's logged off in this save in a cryopod ages ago. Let's go ahead and exit this place. Woo! We got tossed right out there. Because, of course, I didn't depressurize that room like a fool. I'm actually quite fond of the double doors right next to each other glitch, because it does save quite an amount of time. Who knows, maybe in the future it'll be easier to set up a depressurization system or something than having to press the button. Or maybe it already is, I just haven't spent the time to think of it. Using sensors or something. Anyway, heading down the little walkway ramp here. By the way, this little bulge right here is from that path we used to get down. Heading down the ramp, we got our urge little dinky hangar bay that used to be, well, all we had in this cave. It was just a big open cave in this here. And our little pipes going across, and these pipes actually, I think, go down and then connect in the stairwell and shoot all the way back up again. It's a pretty cool sight here. It's very dark, though. Very dark. You can see how little lighting we actually did for DirectX 11. Because everything in DirectX 9 just stays so lit up on its own. It's a pretty good, damn cool sight, though, nonetheless. Moving down here, of course, we can make a quick run across the Berlin Wall. The first little hangar, there's that little control room window we were looking in when we first entered the control area. Lots of pipes, lots of damage and destruction, of course. Yeah. Things, as you probably remember, went wrong when Aaron set up basically a suicide button for the machine, and Tazu, I guess, couldn't help but press it. Now, what do you expect, really? Tazu's little launch bay. Yeah, it's quite a mess down here. In fact, yeah, you can even see somehow this has been damaged even. I'm guessing probably when this broke free. That's also a pretty cool sight to look down in there and be able to see out into space. Just from the base of your base, the bottom of your base. And you can see here the pistons for the big doors that used to be there before we tried to make this one airtight and, of course, eventually failed to do so. Pretty cool. And this was, of course, going to be, I believe, another little maintenance work area. Apparently, we don't have gravity over here. Jesus. I forgot some of the issues we had with this base. Oh, right, and then Tazu, of course, just built straight through what was going to be a maintenance room with oxygen. Awesome. Well done. And then this was Tazu's hangar back when before he went away on, I believe it was military service nonsense. And then here's Tazu's classroom, which, for Tazu's random abrupt return, we went ahead and stuck a, well, I say we, it was Aaron went ahead and stuck a bed in here, and at the time, of course, characters were T-posed, because they had just redone the animation system, so all of my mods were, well, and these are upside down, what the hell. All of my mods didn't quite work well anymore when it came to sitting on them. That's been fixed since then, but Tazu ended up being T-posed in there, which actually kind of worked for Tazu's random return. The idea was also that when we broke this, all the pieces that were in there floating with him would just come flying out, but of course, I think we had gravity, did we? I can't remember. Anyway, it didn't quite go to plan if I remember correctly. Let's move on back across the Berlin Wall. You can see we had a little stairwell there because originally we were going to have an enclosed oxygenated walkway across the whole thing, and multiple different ways to get across that all kind of went silly. We have, of course, our original 2 refineries that, I think maybe originally we just had 1 refinery. All the oxygen areas that we stuck in on top of it. Our antenna that I had to move after somebody flew into it here. It wasn't really their fault. They lagged out, I guess, when I saved. Our little docking areas, all pretty nice, nonsensical stuff. If we head into the base now, this actually almost looks like something out of Alien Isolation or something, with all the metal grids here and the lighting looking so much better. Especially when I have my flashlight on, all these grids really just seem like they divide the room up much nicer than I ever remember them doing in the past. I'm gonna kind of miss this place. If we head down here, we have Aaron's automated door, which, no idea why he felt we needed an automated door, but he put an automated door in. Guess he got sick of pressing the buttons. All of our things to increase our output from everything stuck to the back of the refinery, and you hear that automated door clicking on and off again like crazy. There's the sensor for it hidden there, of course. We have our 1 remaining arc furnace that, no idea why we even bothered keeping that. With our time speed set so high, we really didn't even need that. Again, I'm going to turn off the lights just to show you how terribly lit this place actually was when you don't have proper lights, when you don't have your flashlight on. It's just pretty much pitch black. Let's go ahead and move down here into our living area. I'm going to actually turn off the lights because you can see this is one of the areas that was almost properly lit. A lot of the lights we just tweaked the color, we didn't tweak the range. You can see, imagine that if we had been playing in DirectX 11, for especially lights like this hallway, I would have upped their range, that way you could actually see into the hallway there. That looks kind of terrifying, the pipe just vanishing into the dark ceiling where we have everything hooked up. But you can walk into here, into our medical room, see our nice little beds that we had, and of course our respawn points with everything leading up to the ceiling. DirectX 11 just makes everything look so much more cinematic than it usually does, with the dark shadows and stuff disappearing into it. I love it. I just wish that if you were in complete darkness like this, but there is still a light somewhere, your screen would adapt to be able to see in the dark. Like, it seems like it's adapting a little bit right now, but it should be if I'm looking like this. If there's a light source anywhere in the world, it should get slightly brighter, which it has a tiniest bit on that rock, but not really much. Anyway, let's go on and keep moving, shall we? From the med bay over to our living hall, and I don't think we have any lights down this hallway. Yeah, this almost looks like it's just some sort of medieval cave, except for it's all dug out of pure iron. I can't remember whose room this was. I don't think we ever named them all, but I can't remember whose that was. I think the pink door? I can't remember who the pink belonged to. I think this was mine, probably. We had our little locks and stuff in all these rooms. We all had a bed and a desk and a singular light to light up our personal rooms for. And the doors were not shared with everyone. They were just owned by the specific person. So you can see if I try to open these, we usually get access denied things. And there were, oh, here, we could open this. Was this one mine? I can't remember. But you can actually see that we have 4 rooms for all 4 of us, even though we pretty much never use those. Maybe I should think about making the bed like a cryopod so you can actually log off in it. Of course, does your character still need oxygen when it's logged off? I don't know, I have to think about that. Of course, I also did have this long hallway down here because the original plan was to keep expanding this way as well. And I believe I actually stuck, oh, we're lagging out again, stuck a gravity generator down here, yep, at the very bottom, of course with its polarity, I say polarity, with its direction reversed, that way we can actually walk on this floor here. Through this door that I ran past a second ago, we can actually turn off our lights. Again, we would have tweaked these lights differently if we were playing in DirectX 11, so hopefully this would have actually been lit up properly. But this room, yeah, it actually is lit up pretty well. It's, yeah, our Cryo Pod Room. I actually went a bit crazy with the amount of cryopods I stuck in here. I just quite like the idea of being able to house a lot of people, even though at most times there were only 4 of us here. And then, of course, we have our little doctor's office stuck off to the side here, which I thought, yeah, it does have a light, yet I guess, again, the ranges weren't tweaked properly, so What's supposed to be a very bright and friendly doctor's office looks, he probably has ancient dentist equipment back there all of a sudden. Let's also really quickly go ahead and fly up here, because it's going to be nice to be flying up these tunnels with all the pipes in it, and maybe replace my last memory of these tunnels, which was me just cutting all this stuff out, which was a fair bit depressing, frankly. Yeah. It's nice to know that all this pipe still exists in the save world. Let's go ahead and squeak through here. I've actually crouched to get through that little opening, and drop on down back into where we were earlier, just so we can connect it all up. I'm gonna miss this place. I love this hallway in the dark, by the way. Or with its lights fighting into the dark. It's quite the sight, really. Let's go ahead and move, not that way, we'll come back to that in a minute, but let's go ahead and move down this way. We have another gravity generator to make sure everything is set up properly. And then we come into, well, more of this like metal just stuck here to sort of prevent you from going off the path, and it makes it look so nice, doesn't it? I love how much stuff we got done in this survival world. It's such a fantastical base. I'm gonna miss it. And you see our stairwell that leads back up into the winding stairwell, which actually, if I go up a single flight, you can see it leads back into the original little dinky hangar. So we had lots of tweaking and different little paths that sort of led everywhere. And let's go ahead and head all the way down here to, this was our main storage container that is, I believe, directly below that hangar, which is a dangerous spot to put it, but luckily it never got blown up. This is where we stored absolutely everything. And you see that everything's just slowly over time got hooked into it. Fantastical thing. This pipe here leads back outside into the oxygen farm area, and I used a big cubic block there, sort of, if ever they allow us to pressurize asteroids, we might have a chance to do so. Bit silly considering we got all this grating up there that leads into that hangar, so it doesn't really make much sense. And then of course in this large open room here, we have all of our assemblers that I tossed in, which, let's see, how many we got? 4 on each level, 12 I think? Yeah, 12 assemblers stuck in here, and of course I had the sorting pipes and stuff set up to only allow ingots to go in and basically to pull out all excess materials and put them into the main storage, so everything would just be stuck in a single main storage container. Pretty awesome stuff. And you see below it we have leading down to our battery room that we'll get to in a second. And then walking back over here, we'll come back to that first original little cabin, which was, I believe, no, I didn't say it, did I? Well, you probably know. The original little cabin we had was just this room and basically one of those, this room, an assembler, and a refinery out here, I think. And that was about it. We built a whole lot. Let's go ahead and now head down to the last little part of the base. Oh, right, Aaron's automatic door. And loop about here, down this way, and you can look up here to where we had those assemblers stuck up there. And to the right, we have a room that we never really finished off. This was our battery room. That's odd. Why are you black? Semi-auto. Fully depleted. Oh, it's depleting. It must, I don't know. It's very odd that it's showing black. Anyway, you can see this room never really was finished. You can imagine I was going to make this wall piece extend out over the whole thing, or ideally even have another row of batteries, so we could just have tons and tons of batteries. The semi-auto mode on these is a little bit annoying. I would hope that if there's a solar power, that the second it detects there's something else producing more than enough power that is needed, this would automatically switch back into recharge mode. And if the solar power turns off, if these can produce enough electricity without turning on a reactor, they would turn on. But semi-auto doesn't seem to work that way, unfortunately. Anyway, moving out of there, once again, let's go ahead and, yeah, wow, complete lack of lighting in here. Jesus. Yarp. That actually looks a little bit creepy, like you could imagine something walking across there. You see a silhouette, and then really quickly you see it before it goes through that door. Yikes. I was almost afraid something would be behind me just then when I turned around. And then we come out here to our wonderful, wonderful solar power system, which looks to be completely offline right now. Which, what do you expect? I think we're in the shadow completely. The sun's, yeah, sun's currently behind the asteroid. And then, of course, we don't have any pipes leading to that. Don't really need them. We got a control panel so we could tweak some things. I think, can I stand on this? Yes. So you actually have gravity leading out to that. It was a pretty nice setup. Aaron eventually decided to cut this off without really talking to us too much about it. Well, he said he wanted to, and he said he wanted to make it into a spoiler of all things, but that was just him being silly, quote-unquote. And he stuck to the bottom of our ship, which we still don't know at the time of recording how well that's really going to turn out. Over here we have the door that led into the battery room, as well as all those pipes that I said came down from the other room to go to the oxygen farm, which of course they lead down to an oxygen farm. This whole thing is actually pretty nice and sturdy as compared to that little dinky metal beam that comes out. I say dink, it's mostly made of heavy armor now. But yeah, this looks a bit more sturdy than the other one. And of course it comes down to a pretty hefty oxygen farm, enough for, I think you need 2 of these to keep 1 human just barely alive, and we got enough for 4 people barely alive, plus 4 more extra, I think is how it's set up. Yeah. It's a pretty nice base, even if right now it just is completely black because the sun's on the other side. If I turn this off, theoretically right now, because there's ambient light in the world, because I'm looking at complete darkness, with next to nothing else in my vision, my eyes should be adjusting, because I'm looking at darkness, to actually allow me to see stuff. So this should get slightly brighter, but it's not. Urgh! That's the biggest drawback of DirectX 11, is the lighting is finicky, which is one of the reasons why I think Aaron and Scott aren't too keen on it. Scott keeps saying that the skybox is too dark, which I definitely don't agree. I love it. Anyway, moving into our ship, you can see our original plan of not using UncleSte's blocks kind of went out the window, as Aaron was building the front area, which I completely left the front area to Aaron and Scott. I just completely left it to them. This is an earlier version of the ship. If this goes up on the Steam Workshop, this won't be here, I'm suspecting. We'll probably end up just deleting this. I don't really have to show you a tour of this, as this is the unfinished version. Like I said, if this goes up on the Steam Workshop, you're probably not going to see this ship here. You'll probably have all of our little tiny ships and maybe some of the scrap we have left lying around. But in all likelihood, not going to find that ship sitting there or much of that. You're just going to have the base. Anyways, that's it. That's the base in DirectX 11. I kind of babbled a bit there, I know, but gonna miss this place. Anyway guys, thanks a bunch for watching, and I'll see you next time. Ta-ta.